Hey everybody, Reefgrrl here. This video is about my orange molly, who you can see there looking happy and fat and healthy. This footage was recorded in March of 2018. She's in the fry tank along with her boyfriend, the black molly there. They hang out a lot together. And here she is 3 weeks later. You can see there's something very, very wrong with her. So I started doing some research. The first thing I ruled out was swim bladder problems. Because she can swim around, she does stay upright, and for long periods of time she'll rest on the bottom like this, and then suddenly take off and just swirl around, corkscrew swimming, looking very, very awkward. Time after time, my research kept coming back to something called whirling disease. Myxobolus cerebralis is a parasite that infests fish and causes neurological problems and deformities of their spine because the parasite resides in the cartilage and bone there. The parasite isn't visible. The only real symptom is this odd swimming behavior. So even though my reading showed that Myxobolus cerebralis has 2 hosts that are necessary to complete its life cycle, and I only have 1, I decided to get her out of the fry tank and isolated so that I could perhaps do some treatments and try to help her. This parasite generally infects fish when they're young, and because this molly came from fresh water, which is where the parasite resides, it does not reside in salt water. I'm wondering whether she came in with it. The other thing is that it's salmon type fish and trout, especially those in fish farms that are most susceptible to this particular parasite. I decided to go ahead and try to help this fish because I learned that this particular parasite is not transmissible to humans, so I was more comfortable with the idea of handling the water and the fish. I mentioned earlier that there are 2 hosts required for this parasite to complete its life cycle. The second host is the tubifex worm, and I don't use them or have them, so I'm not worried about this spreading to any of my other fish. Now, all of this so far assumes that it is whirling disease. I don't know for sure if it is, because I have no way of determining whether the parasite is infecting this fish. All I can go on is the behavior, and that's what I looked up and researched. And I can't be 100% sure that's what it is. So although the parasite infestation is not curable, some fish do recover because of immunity. So I'm going to give this fish a shot by trying to treat her. And one of the things that occurs to me is that Myxobolus cerebralis lives in fresh water, and this is salt water. I'm wondering whether this might help. Secondly, I have a couple of plans for different treatments to try that I've used on other fish with success. I'm also going to feed her very small amounts. And although I have no tubifex worms to act as the second host, and I don't believe these guys will be infected with the parasite, I'm still going to keep a close eye on them, just in case. So she's been in the hospital tank for a week, and in that time I've fed her twice with literally 2 flakes of food. She does try to eat. I have seen her go after it. I've also done 2 water changes of about 90%. There's just over a gallon of water in here, and I take all of it out except for an inch at the bottom. Seeing no improvement in a week, I decided to try Epsom salts. I spooned 4 tablespoons directly into the filter and just allowed it to dissolve with the flow of the water. This made a really strong solution, and I left it overnight, then did a big water change. 3 days ago, I added Reefgrrl, about 1/8 of a teaspoon, which is still a very high dose for this volume of water. Her swimming behavior has changed. It's slowed down. I don't know if this means she's weakening or whether perhaps the Reefgrrl is having some effect. After the Epsom salts and Reefgrrl, I decided it's time for a freshwater bath. But first I had to correct the salinity in this tank because it had crept up really high. So I poured some RODI water into the filter, and these started floating out. These are fry. She's obviously given birth. I don't know whether they were born alive and killed when they were drawn up through the filter, or whether they were perhaps stillborn because of her illness and because of the treatments that I've been putting in here. But in any case, These were the first few that I found. And after giving the filter a good flushing, I found approximately 30 more fry. It's kind of sad to see this, but I don't believe I could have raised these even if they had been viable and not infected by the parasite. Apparently spinal deformities occur in this particular disease, and that probably would have impacted these babies considering the mother was infected. And of course assuming that this is whirling disease, because I'm still not 100% sure. After getting sidetracked finding the fry when I was adjusting salinity, here's the molly in the freshwater dip. Now she's still, but she's breathing heavily and obviously trying to adjust to it. She is moving around now, and one thing that shocks me is what good condition she's in. I think I expected to see abrasions or tattered fins or some sort of physical problem, but I'm very impressed that I'm really not seeing that. So I'm going to leave her in here for 5 minutes while I do a water change in her tank. 90% out and replaced with fresh salt water. Okay, she's back in here now and obviously recovering from being put back into salt water. So from here, it's going to be observation again. It's been 2 weeks at this point, and I don't know how long this might go on. This is about 2 days after the freshwater dip, and today I'm going to feed her some flakes. She is still moving around quite actively, and I think it's time I gave her a bit of food. She does spend a fair amount of time resting on the bottom, but I don't know what that means, if anything. So throughout the next week and a half or so, the molly just seemed to continue to behave exactly the same. One exception was that I really did feel that she was eating. I put the algae on the rock like this, and it would slowly disappear. So I was hoping all along that at least she was getting a mouthful here and there when she could stay still long enough to do it. At this point, it's been 3.5 weeks since I moved this fish into this hospital tank, and she's pooping. And to me, that means she must have been eating. So it's a really hopeful sign. She doesn't move around as much, and I don't know if that's only because she's weakening or whether she's getting better. So this is the night of the 25th day of isolation for this fish, and she finally did pass away today. Looking at her closely, she's not in good shape now. Not like she was when I did the freshwater dip, and all of her internal organs look, I don't know, something very wrong here. So I don't know what was wrong with her. I don't know if she had whirling disease or what she might have had. It looks like hemorrhaging inside her body. Also, the shape of her spine, this big curve. That is classic for whirling disease. It does deform the spine, and yeah. So I guess I'll never really know unless I'm willing to cut her open and do a necropsy, but I wouldn't know what I was looking for anyway. So that's that, and it was worth a shot, but these things happen.